am Reverend Irene Smith, aka Miss Irene for my young peeps, and I am the Bible study teacher. I want to welcome you to Generationally Speaking, the 21st Century Bible Study, where we sit at the table with Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and beyond, and we discuss life issues with the Bible being the final answer. Well, I'm always excited to welcome my co-host. I have today Minister James Durham. You know him as that Cowboy fan in the Washington football area. I don't know how he does it, but here he is. He's a DC native, and yet he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. Minister Durham, I want to welcome you.
Thank you, Reverend. Always a pleasure to be here. And you know, I love to say I refuse to be a victim of my environment.
And we are looking forward to that day. Minister Durham is a mentor to young men, actually boys and men of all ages, using the Nehemiah principle as a means of building them. He also works with married couples, walking with them, helping them to journey through their vows. That's what I'm gonna say, journeying through their vows to death do us part. And today we also are excited about our other co-host who's not with us today, but she's always with us, and that is Pastor Shamika Latte. And her mantra is building the best you. And I'm excited always to have her and to acknowledge her as a part of this programming. Well, our special guests for the next 3 weeks are Thomas and Carolyn Little. I met them through Pastor Shamika. Pastor Shamika had them on her social media platform, and I was so enthralled in their conversation. It arrested me, stopped me, and I said, oh my goodness, I have got to invite this couple to be a part of Generationally Speaking, the 21st Century Bible Study. They are the CEOs of Lifestyle Soulutions. Right. And today we're going to be talking with them about this wedding bliss. Everybody knows something about this wedding bliss when we say I do. So for those of you who are looking in, I want you to go grab your boo, and I want you to hit, and if they're not available, hit the record button so you can show it to them later as we journey into this conversation about for better or for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health. And in the times when you want to throw up both your hands and say, I quit.
Yes.
And so I'm excited. So I'm going to ask Carolyn and Thomas Little if they would just share with us how they met. We're going to let's hear their love story, and how long did they date, and what was that like? So Carolyn and Thomas, I give you the microphone. Go ahead and let us help us to journey with you all through this love story.
Hey, thank you so much, Reverend Irene and Minister. We just appreciate both of you. And of course, you know, we love Pastor Shamika, even in her absence. So Carolyn and I, we've been married now for over 35 years total. Wow. But the great thing about it was really, you've heard of that match made in heaven. Well, you know, sometimes you got to go through the valley to get to the heaven. So, you know, we definitely did that. But it was really something very sweet for us because we were both going to church in Gary, Indiana. And you remember back in the day when the choir used to march in? Yeah. Well, I was leading the choir. I had my hand up and I was marching in, and I just happened to look to the right. I was supposed to keep my eyes front, you know, but I happened to look to the right and I saw this beautiful, beautiful young lady with these real big glasses on. And, I mean, they were very fashionable at the time. This was back in the 80s. And she was just so cute and so pretty. And I saw her and I said, wow, okay, God, you don't sent my wife. I just kept marching in and just kept going in. And eventually, you know, I introduced myself to her and everything. And she had been a member of the church for a while. I had been away and had just returned. So when I met her, introduced myself to her, and I'll let Carolyn share a little bit more about it.
Yeah, even after that, as he was marching in, I kept my friend, I was sitting next to my friend. That particular Sunday, I wasn't singing, and I asked her, I said, why does this guy keep looking at me? Like, why? Do you know him? And because I didn't know him because he had left and came back. And so I would ask her, I said, do you know him? And every time I would look at him, he was just staring at me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so uncomfortable. So again, he did eventually introduce himself one day after choir rehearsal, it was. And then he told me who he was and everything. And so I was like, okay, but I still wasn't convinced that he was my husband. He was, at the time asking me, do you think I can take you out? You think we can go somewhere? And I'm still looking at him like, but who are you? I don't know you, that way. But the rest is history. And so we met there in church, and then we started dating for about a year or so before we actually got married. When we started dating, we always shared our dreams and hopes with each other and what we wanted to do. And he was such the perfect gentleman. But when I did see him, the first thing that drew me to him was that the way he carried himself. Like he was a man of stature and carried himself like a godly man when I saw him. And so, not to mention he was handsome, he was fine, all that played in there too. But just the way he carried himself led me to just say, okay, let me just see what God wants to do and see what friendship that we can build first.
So were you dating anyone else at the time?
No, I wasn't dating anyone at the time. I had just actually broke up with someone, but the young lady that I was sitting with, I wasn't really dating her brother, but I think he kind of liked me in a way, but we weren't really dating. So I wasn't dating anyone at the time when he came through there. Yeah. So it was interesting.
So how old were you all?
I was 25.
Yeah, and I was 33.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this connection, how easy was it, Thomas, for you to approach Carolyn just to say, first of all, just the initial approach, and then the approach of asking for a telephone number or some form of contact?
Well, I had just returned from a job in Detroit, back to Gary, Indiana. I had been with a job. I'd left and came back home, so I was familiar with the church. I grew up with that particular church. And, so I really felt at home there. It was like, you're coming into my territory, So I just, I really saw her, and it was extremely easy because I wasn't dating anyone at the time. I had just returned. And, there was this, for lack of a better word, unction in me that always just wanted to be married. I dated women, and I was a member of fraternity. So, I could be known to be a little flamboyant or whatever the case may be, playful and, laughable. But in all seriousness, I always wanted that in my life. So it was very easy to talk to Carolyn because she was intelligent, and she was just too cute. So I couldn't be scared. I had to go for it,
So neither one of you had been married before?
No.
Okay. And had either one of you been in an extended relationship before? An extended relationship with someone else, a boyfriend-girlfriend situation for a year or more?
Yeah. We both were for about a year. Yeah, about a year and a half.
So with someone else, with other people?
Yeah.
So Carolyn, when you finally decided, I'll take that first date, do you remember what that was like for you?
Yes, I was still nervous because, again, I didn't know him. Now, I saw his mom at church all the time. And so when they told me that was, her son, I was like, okay, because she was a very nice lady. His mom was extremely nice. And so I said, okay, so of course you just, think about the mom is nice, you got to raise good kids, you kind of, that whole thing, you got to be a good guy, And so the first time that he asked me out, I was just like, okay, we'll just see kind of where this goes. And like I said, he was the perfect gentleman. I remember our very first date. It was so kind of funny, but we were like at Church's Chicken. I love Church's Chicken. So it was like, I think he kind of did it just so that I could feel comfortable. Because, sometimes guys have they want to put that best foot forward that first time. And so it's not that you go to Church's Chicken the first time, you might go to a nice restaurant, but eventually you're going to end up at Church's Chicken. Well, we were backwards. We started out with Church's Chicken, and then we did the fine wine and dining after that. So that's what was like, okay, he cared. He wanted to make it real easy for me and real, not so, how would I say, formal, but just wanted to make it nice and easy and comfortable. So when he was like, where'd you want to go? I was like, Church's Chicken, just Church's Chicken. So, yeah.
And
so Thomas, where were you all when, I'm sorry, where were you all when you popped the question, will you marry me?
Well, actually, I was at her house.
Yeah.
I went to her house and I just asked her, when I went to her house, we were talking and I said, actually, what I actually said was, we're going to get married. So why don't we just go on and do that? Let's go on and get married. Yep. Will you marry me?
Yeah, it was at my home.
And Carolyn, you said yes.
I said, yeah, I was, and it was so fun because I think we were just outside hanging out. Yeah. We weren't doing anything special. It wasn't like you see these engagements now where you plan this big thing. We were just outside hanging out, and I said, yes, I'll marry you. Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, so you all had this, did you have a big wedding?
Oh my gosh, I think we had a total of about 200,
yeah,
200 people, about 200 people there. And we'll tell you about the other time around, which was more people than the first time around. But we had about 200 people at our first wedding. But wasn't like we didn't have a huge wedding party. We just had a best man and a maid of honor, and that was it.
Yeah, my brother and her sister.
Yep.
Because, again, I had grew up at this church. So, when you're in the church all your life, you're kind of, not to say royalty, but, people know you.
People know you.
They know you and they support you.
Yeah.
And I have an extremely large family, as Shamika could probably tell you.
Yeah.
We have a large family. So if my family just comes, you're going to fill a place up.
That's already 100 people.
So you all get married and you start to build this family together.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. This marriage, this first marriage for both of you, and this bliss. I mean, tell us about that. Just the day in and day out relationship that you have in that first marriage.
Well, it was definitely getting to know each other. And I always say that you really don't know anyone until you live with them. Mm-hmm. They can put their best foot forward. They can wine and dine you in the best restaurants, do all that. But when you actually start living with someone, that's when you really know who they really are. And so we were trying to, at that point, just still going to church every Sunday, choir rehearsal every Wednesday, doing what we did, go to work, but just learning each other how we, from anything like, what do you want to eat? What do you like to eat? What do you like for dinner? Do you even eat dinner? So just those certain questions that we had to begin to learn how to live with each other. The things from like doing laundry. I do laundry on Saturday. When do you do laundry? I do my having cleaning on Saturday. When do you clean? So just those things of learning how to really learn how to live together as a family. And again, you can put your best foot forward, but nothing like when you live with that person day in and day out that you really know who they really are when you get married.
So in that first marriage, both of you all, with this being both of you all's first marriage, and just first time, really having, living with each other, living with someone else and getting to know them, what were the little things that started to bother you, Carolyn?
Well, the little things were all of a sudden, like leaving in the middle of the night. Like, I'm going to go hang out with my friends. And I'm like, well, like, where are you going? But couldn't say where you were going. Money coming up missing in our bank account. And I'm thinking, and you getting these overdrafts after overdraft. And I'm thinking like, what's wrong with this picture? Something is happening here. Why are we getting all these overdrafts? And I think that was the biggest thing, was waking up to, or just knowing that when you look at your bank account, you're overdrawn. And money is there because you either got paid or you just made a deposit. and the money is gone, and then the friends are coming by, and I'm thinking like, why are they coming by this late at night? Like, why? Where are you guys going? So I'm thinking that for sure there has to be another lady. There has to be another woman. You definitely have to be cheating. Was my first instinct. That has to be it. Who could get you out your bed in the middle of the night with your family to go just hang out? So that was my first instinct, was there has to be somebody else.
So Thomas, your lifestyle, because when you are single, you're accustomed to going and as you please, and now you're married to this person, and maybe what Carolyn is talking about is something that you had always been doing. Was that the case?
Oh, definitely. Because we actually had our first child within that first year of marriage. So it wasn't just us. It was, she had a son when we got married. I had a daughter and a son already. But with us, her son was with us, and my daughter was with her mom in Indianapolis, and my son was with his family. But as we began to go in that first year, it was a kind of a free spirit. And again, as I was saying, I went to college, so I was in a fraternity and kind of a brotherhood for life type thing, along with my friends at church. So we all always hung out, did things. So when I got married, I didn't mature quick enough. That's what I would call it. Yeah. I kind of kept doing what I was doing. I go be with the boys, and do whatever guys do together, just hang out and talk stuff and, do things like that, and not be responsible with the things. And I guess it's probably time to share this point. I had been battling an addiction for a few years, and it was a different kind of an addiction. I would overcome it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, then I go back. Overcome it for 2 years, and I was in the overcoming phase when I met Carol. Okay, I'm going to get this together. I'm going to go back to church. I'm going to get it right, and we're going to go on with our life. I could always get the job because as she said, I knew how to look professional, act professional, carry myself. I had some skills and things of that nature, but I still had this inner, for lack of a better word, inner demon that I had dealt with and hadn't totally overcame.
Right.
So it began to show its head.
Did you share that? Did you share your addiction with Carolyn?
Well, that was one. Actually, I did not. And I think that's what shocked her the most because, I had thought that I probably had it under control because after you've been clean a year or so, you're like, okay, I'm good.
Right.
I'm good, but then again, it shows up again. I'll let Carolyn share with you something about that too.
Yeah, I didn't know. I wish he would have told me about it, but I don't know why he didn't. And so that was one of those things, like after that first year, I was like, man, why couldn't you have said it? And it could have been maybe like he was saying, I was overcoming it, and maybe would have been fearful that I wouldn't have married him. So I'm sure all those things might have been going through his mind if he would have said, I got this issue. Because for sure, if I would have known right then, I probably would not have married him if I would have known that we were going to be facing what we faced the first 5 years of our marriage.
So, that's the one thing about when couples, when they first come together, and I call it the wedding bliss, because it is bliss. You don't see for whatever reason, your eyes are blind to the person's frailties, your frailties, their frailties. And it's only after you say I do and the bliss starts to wear off that you begin to see each other in their frailties. And so you all have come together and you made these vows, and everybody in the church knows you. And that's another weight. When you grow up in a church and you got married in the church and everybody knows everybody, the weight of staying together because of how other people think. Did that weigh on you all at all? Just trying to, resolve things.
Well, I think the first year for me at that point, it was like if anybody would have just told me what was happening, like if anybody would have told me what was going on, but nobody said anything. Like you're saying, even though they knew him, he grew up there. people knew that there was an issue. I just didn't. So people knew that there was something going on. I just didn't know. So if somebody would have said something, then I'm sure it would have been different the first 5 years of our marriage. But I have always told Thomas this, and I am a stickler to this: just tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may fall, and we can deal with it from there. So if he would have said something, or about what he was dealing with, if I would have said, no, I'm not going to marry you, then unless you get help, that could have been an issue, you know what I'm saying? Or unless you do something. For me for the pressure of people on me to have us to stay together, because like you're saying, you grew up there, it's like how do I want to say it, where people can see you and you want to make this statement and we're going to work through this no matter what. No, that was not the issue with me. I would have rather have said, let's just end this. But then when I got in it is when I wanted to keep it together after I'm in it. But beforehand, I would have said no, just not going to happen.
So you mentioned that you all are a blended family, that Thomas, you came into the marriage, I believe you said you had 2 children.
Yes.
And Carolyn, you had a son?
I had one son, yes.
One son. So how did that work out, the blending of the children?
Well, with
Was
my
that a
son,
problem?
well, again, we grew up in the church. So he, like I said, his mom was just wonderful. So everybody kind of knew us. I knew his mom, or knew of her before I knew him. And so, whenever you met his mom, she was just so welcoming and just, took everybody in and didn't show any difference with anyone, And so when he finally introduced me to his mom and she knew I had a son, she just embraced us. It was just it was just wonderful. Just nothing, but didn't put me down, didn't look at me funny. She treated my son as if he were her son. Took him on trips, and it was just wonderful. And the same thing with his daughter.
Yeah.
When I met his daughter, I let her know that you already have a mom. I'm not here to be your mom. And so, we just kind of blended. We worked through it. And I think everybody found their proper place in the relationship, and that really made it well. I wasn't trying to be overbearing. I wasn't coming in with any disciplinary. And the same thing with my son. He wasn't coming in trying to discipline him. Let's kind of work this together. You already have rules and things set in your home, so let's kind of see how we can work this together with already, what you have said. He wasn't coming in being, dun, 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 I'm a dad, now do what I say because I'm your dad. We had to work through that. We had to work through all of that.
So as a blended family, the children, how did the children, were the children old enough to come and live with you all, or were they older? So how did that work out?
Well, her son came to live with us.
Okay.
But my daughter, again, her and her mom lived here in Indianapolis, so she stayed with her mom. But she visited very often.
Yeah.
She would spend summers with me and, things of that nature. And another great story that you guys will be hearing about, I had a son when I was in high school who I was estranged from for so many reasons that I knew but wasn't able to communicate with. And after we got married, as a matter of fact, it was years after we got married, we got reconnected with him through my mother, actually. And like I say, we'll share that story. So, and he came in and he kind of very calmly embraced us, more and more each year.
Mm-hmm.
It was, at first it was like, well, what do you want? Well, hey, we're not trying to come in and run your life. He was older. He was a teenager. He was a grown man, as a matter of fact. He had just got married. I said, hey, we just want to know it. Just want to get to know you. And he was okay with that. And we really worked that out. But one thing I do want to share, I think is important. No one told Carolyn about what was going on with me because everyone was rooting for it.
Yeah.
They were rooting for me to overcome this. Does that make a little sense to help somebody? The church was, hey, we believe God will help you. Come back here, come back, and we'll work with you through it. And I was in a good space when we got married. But again, one of the things that real quickly that we talk about in our book is that addiction's greatest asset is its deception.
Right.
So.
Right. So then everything is going well except for these things that Carolyn talks about. So it gets to a point. What point does it get to that you say, Carolyn, I can't stay any longer?
Well, after the 5 years that the 11 years that we were married, everything came in like spurts. So it would be 1 year, 2 years he would be clean, and then you have that episode that would come with this, then it's crazy for about a year, and then he could get it together, hold it together for another two years. So every time I was thinking, well, this is hope, but for sure you're not going to go back out now. You've done it for 2 years, you can stay forever. So there was that hope that I always had that he would, because it's been 2 years or 2.5 years, that he wouldn't go out. But in that meantime, we went to a lot of marriage counseling. We went to a lot of marriage conferences. We went to different type of retreats. So in that 11 years, we were actually trying to still make this work. At one point, I said, I have done, I think, all that I can do to try to hold this marriage together. Just being supportive, going in and out with these different episodes. And at one point, I was like, okay, enough is enough. Enough is really enough, because then my kids were getting older, and I had to make decisions for them as far as safety. And so it was at that point where I was thinking, okay, I've got to do something else. I've done all I could do in 11 years. And I spoke to God and I said, well, God, what do I need to do? And God never did tell me to divorce or anything, but God did assure me that I'm with you if you do, and I'm with you if you don't.
All right. So Thomas, we get to that point where your wife says, I don't think I can do this. And what's your response?
Well, my response actually was, well, I'm getting what I deserve. And, when you're caught in this web, a lot of times self-destruction is kind of a hidden thing, because you keep giving into it. And I took responsibility for that. And I just said, well, hey, I'm getting what I deserve. Now I've lost the thing that was most precious to me,
Okay.
which was my wife. At this time, we had
3 kids?
Yeah, we had 3 kids by then. And so in the 11 years, we had 3. And with the one she had and the one I had, that made 5, and so it was just really a terrible, terrible situation. So I was just like, hey, I'm getting what I deserve. And I just let the chips fall where they may.
All right. Well, we're going to stop here for right now, and we're going to pick back up next week on the second part. And as you can hear more of this journey of Thomas and Carolyn Little, and I leave with you Genesis 2:24 that says, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And that's really what we're talking about, that becoming one flesh. And so stay with us next week. But whatever you do, be inspired to be all that God would have you to be. Be informed by the word of God. And Minister Durham,
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
all right. See you next week. God bless.
God bless.
See you next time.